Welcome to another episode of Core Top 10s. My name's Legacy.
And I'm Max.
I'm Bobby.
I'm Jay.
Ian Catan. Yo.
All right. So we're here with another fun Top 10s. It's going to be an awesome list. We are doing Top 10 NFL underrated players. Woo! All right, and this is all time, so not just current players. Most of the players that are on this list are retired. Actually, every single one of them is retired that made the list.
Dang, that's true.
So,
yeah, I didn't vote for any current players. I'm like, they still have time to change the narrative.
same. All right, gentlemen.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Let's do it.
All right, so I got a total of 34 different players that were voted on the list, and actually no player got every single person's vote.
That's interesting.
This really brought out difference of opinions of what we thought is underrated.
Of what you value in a football player.
Yep. All right. So let's start off. There was actually a tie at our 9th spot, both coming in with 10 points. We are knocking off somebody's number one right off the bat. It was mine. I knew this person probably would be knocked off. We are going to... This person was huge into this dynasty, and I don't think gets the full credit he deserves. He was also at the time coined as a player that was hard to deal with and hard to work with, but is a legend in himself and is not really talked enough. It is actually Charles Haley, who played for the San Francisco 49ers and is a Pro Football Hall of Famer. The reason I put him on my list is basically when people talk about that great Dallas Cowboys team, they really talk about, most of the time, I feel like 4 names is Jimmy Johnson, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, and Troy Aikman. Charles Haley, I don't feel gets his credit, even though he was huge in anchoring that defense. What a lot of people need to remember, that defense, that Dallas defense was really good as well.
Hey, Charles Haley, he played James Madison, who just beat number 4 Michigan State yesterday.
And they're ranked in college football, even though they can't play a bowl game this year.
Yep.
James Madison taking over.
Yeah, but Charles Haley was a huge anchor to that defense. The one year he underwent season-ending surgery was the one year that they lost in the conference championship to the 49ers. I just think when you talk about that dynasty, his name's really rarely ever brought up, though he was one of the biggest factors of that dynasty. Not just that one, but also with the 49ers, he won 2 Super Bowls as well. So he's a very underrated player. That's why he was number one on my list, because just how important he was to both, I think, the 49ers and really more the Cowboys.
He went to 5 Pro Bowls, won 5 Super Bowls,
two-time
All-Pro.
I'm kind of surprised.
I'm pretty sure he went 5-0. I'm pretty sure, didn't he?
In Super Bowls? If he was with the Niners and Cowboys, because they didn't lose any, right?
Niners, Cowboys never lost. Yeah. The funny thing is, actually, this was one of the few times that I will give Jerry Jones credit, because Jimmy Johnson did not want Charles Haley. He thought he was too problematic to deal with. But Jerry Jones pushed this trade and got him, and it ended up being one of the few times Jerry Jones was right.
Jerry Jones was in his bag in the 90s, but after that, not so much.
After that, went a whole nother way. So, yeah, there you go. That was voted on number one by me. So we're going to go into our next player. We're going to go into another player that we've discussed multiple times. It was voted on by 2 people. It's myself and Max. Also came in with 10 points. I think as time has come by, this player has gotten more credit for what he did, but he was a great player. Still probably disrespected by his fan base, but it is Donovan McNabb.
Yeah, I did the heavy lifting there.
I knew Matt's going to resist putting him on there.
Look, he is. I'm not gonna. We talked about him in our other recording, so I won't go too in depth. But I just feel people look at his numbers, and his numbers really are better than what they look like on paper because of the talent they play with for the majority of his career. So if you put him even with average weapons, he would look a lot better. And he was one of the best quarterbacks of his era.
God, you sound like me when I talk about Cam Newton.
Well, they're very similar.
Yeah, I mean, they're very similar. Team did nothing to surround them with weapons. Granted, they did get T.O. for, 20 games, 21 games?
Hey, Newton had Steve Smith for 48, so.
Yeah, but it was old Steve Smith,
He's still good, though.
Well, I mean, Steve Smith.
Both teams didn't really help after they lost those big pieces to replace that. Until Donovan McNabb, kind of, but it was kind of late when he got Jeremy Maclin and all of that. And Deshaun Jackson was like end of his career, though.
Yeah, he played with Deshaun Jackson 2 years, Jerry Maclin only for the rookie year. With his leading receiver being his running back, Brian Westbrook, that, again, his numbers would be better if he was put in better situations. I feel like nowadays, like people underrate him because his numbers don't look that great compared to this era of quarterbacks. So I think he gets lost in the mix. And I think he's even underrated by the own Eagles fan base because if you talk to most Eagles fans, they would to this day say they hate McNabb, even though he's the best quarterback in history.
It is crazy how the Eagles fans do disrespect McNabb. I'm like,
Now, Max, tell me, this is reportedly McNabb's 5 best targets he had in his career. Number 5, Todd Pinkston. Number 4, Kevin Curtis.
Let me get you the numbers. I have the numbers, sir.
All right.
Oh, go ahead, though. I'll tell you if you're right. Though.
And then they had 3 Deshaun, 2 Westbrook, 1 Owens.
Is that based on yard? Oh, yeah. That's how they would rate them by best.
By talent.
Probably, okay. Yeah, you probably would because obviously T.O. would be the best, better.
All right, let me tell you his top ones by yards. And remember, T.O. only played with him for 21 games, and McNabb played 160 for his career. So it's Brian Westbrook, Todd Pinkston, Terrell Owens, Chad Lewis, James Thrash. Top 5.
You.
And
again, T.O. played 21 games with McNabb, and he was 3rd highest in his career. That's just part of why. And he won a lot of games. I know he had a great coach, great defense, and all that, but he was a winner. So I just think as time goes on, he's getting more underrated.
And like we said, it started from the beginning because he got booed when he was drafted by the Eagles.
Yeah, like I said, even the fan base underrates him, and I don't understand it. Don't understand it.
Yeah, they don't want him at all. But
they say Nick Foles is the best quarterback in history. I don't care if he won the Super Bowl, and I'm very happy he did, but he's not even the top 5 quarterback as far as talent in the Eagles' history.
Nick Foles. I was
going to say, if you play, like it said, he wasn't even better than Carson Wentz. Like it's been said, if Nick Foles played that whole season, Eagles, you would not have won that Super Bowl because you would not have been in that position.
Or how could anyone even argue that? We've seen Nick Foles' whole career. We know that he's not that guy. So you can say the Eagles wouldn't have won and went started the whole year. Okay, fine, sure, but he got that team to the point where they could win. To wrap up the McNabb thing, I do think if he had won that Super Bowl, he would be in the Hall of Fame. I think that's really the only thing that was holding him back.
Yeah, that does help.
We're going to go into our next quarterback. Next player, not quarterback. This person came in with 14 points, was voted on by the 2 people who haven't spoken yet. He played for the Titans and then made a transition over and played for the Ravens as well.
He played for Houston and the Jets, I believe, too.
Yeah, it is Derek Mason.
He was just so reliant
I'll let Jared go first.
and consistent. And honestly, he was one of the top receivers at the time, but like he didn't get near enough praise. Like he was putting up great work.
He showed a lot of hard work because his first 3 or 4 years he didn't really.
Yeah, it's kind of like
a full-time receiver.
He kind of was like Chris Carter. I think Chris Carter took longer. Chris Carter was like 6 years or something like that.
Yeah, first 3 years. He had 608 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns, 47 receptions.
Well, he got hurt 1 year though.
He's very reliable.
8 1,000-yard seasons within 9 years, so that's really impressive.
And he did it with multiple 1,000-yard seasons with 2 different teams.
I mean, just to get 1,000 yards 8 times enough. There's not that many people who have done that. And yes, you could say, he was never like the best receiver in the league, but he was arguably, one of the most reliable at any point.
He had over 12,000 receiving yards. Like how? Like I just don't understand how people don't talk about him because you never hear people talk about Derek Mason.
Like when you think of receivers from the late 90s, 2000s, his name rarely comes up, even though he was probably top 10 of that time period, maybe top 15.
In terms of like reliability, consistently, because like you said, when he started turning it on, he was like never hurt.
He had 8 straight years where he played every game.
So there you go. Someone McNair could always count on, and then even in Baltimore.
Well, I think part of the reason is because his game isn't sexy. It's not going to look great on the highlight reel. He's not the flashiest player, so in this day and age, that's kind of what sells.
He only made the Pro Bowl twice, which is pretty surprising to me.
Yeah, 1-time All-Pro.
But that was the All-Pro was for return.
Yeah, because he receiving. Was.
You don't need the flashiest guy to be your number 1, but you just need a guy who could be consistent and get open. That's what he did. And the fact that he got a 1,000-yard season by age 35 shows how good his route running was. I wish the Panthers had a receiver like that.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
We're going to talk about another guy. We're going to another receiver, played mainly late 80s, 90s. This player's career was cut short, unfortunately, due to injury. Arguably, his best season was his last season before he got the injury. He is a true star. When he came out initially, he was supposed to be the best player in his family, but he got surpassed by his younger brother. We are talking about none other than Sterling Sharp.
Could be in the Hall of Fame. Just throwing it out there.
He was voted on by myself, Hunter, and Max with 15 points. He was actually the Mountains' number one.
I didn't know he was such a fan.
I mean, he was definitely one of the best receivers of his time.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want anyone to talk about longevity. Terrell Davis didn't have that long of a career. He's in the Hall of Fame. Sterling Sharp should be in the Hall of Fame.
I was actually going to say, you could say that Sterling Sharp is the Terrell Davis for as far as receivers. But this man, in just, was this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, he led the league in receptions 3 times, yards once, and touchdowns twice. So he was arguably the best receiver in that time, aside from Jerry Rice.
He had 65 touchdowns in 7 seasons. That's crazy.
And
you can argue if he didn't get hurt, he'd probably be like the second best receiver of all time.
If he didn't get hurt, he'd be like, yeah, he would definitely be considered like an all-timer.
Yeah, in 7 years, he went to the Pro Bowl 5 times, 3-time All-Pro. So, I mean, you're talking about total domination.
It sucks for Sterling because when did Green Bay win? It had to have been like not too long after he retired.
Two years after he got hurt. Yeah. So it's just terrible that happened to him because he deservedly should be talked about as probably the top 15, top 20 receiver of all time.
Oh, if he stayed healthy, top 5.
Yeah, he was posting insane numbers. And he just goes.
Anyone brings up longevity for a Hall of Fame, I'm like, no, that's bogus. That's bogus. That's made up. They don't care about longevity.
Well, here's how we're going to be able to tell. They're not going to put Frank Gore in the Hall of Fame for a bit. That's how we can tell they don't care about longevity.
You can't say you count longevity and you put people that play 6 years or less in there.
Okay, to be fair to Terrell Davis, he does have an MVP and a Super Bowl MVP. So to be fair, that also factors into why he got it.
Hey, I'm not. I was saying, look, the NFL does not like wide receivers. We know this.
Which is funny because soon they're going to have no choice with the way that it's becoming a throwing league. Yeah. Like you better get over this whole like receivers thing because in a couple years you're going to have no choice but to put a bunch in. All right, we're going to go into our next guy. We are actually going to be talking about another receiver.
We think receivers are highly undervalued by the common people.
So this one was voted on by 2 people, myself and D3. This person is known as probably one of the toughest players to ever play. I think the reason he's in is because of a run is really what pushed it for me. It is none other than the man who broke his face, Anquan Boldin.
No one can deny this man's toughness. He broke his face, took no painkillers.
He was on my honorable mention list.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite receivers of all time.
Yeah. He came in
whenever you talk the Cardinals offense, you always talk Larry Fitzgerald and Kurt Warner. There's no respect on this man's name.
Does Anquan still have the record for the overall season?
I don't think so. Justin Jefferson, yeah. But he had it for a while. And he had it in 2003.
03 when they didn't throw as much.
Yeah, well, 2003 was also the last year they had the Ty Law rule there, or thing in place where you could hold the receiver. So 2004 is when they changed it. So he did that in the year where they could hold you forever. So that probably would be a 1,600-yard season, 1,700-yard season today.
Jefferson had 1,400 exactly, and Quan had 1,377.
He did well, and I think he was underrated because of that prolific offense that they had in the Cardinals. Why he's so high rated for me is because that Baltimore season where that playoff run, where I will also argue a reason why Joe Flacco was so good was because Anquan Boldin bailed him out multiple times. He went to him in clutch. Especially that New England Patriots game, there's about 4 catches I remember in clutch moments that I think was really like Flacco and the defense get a lot of credit, and Anquan does not get dessert for what he did during that run. Yeah, he had like 390 yards and 4 touchdowns during that.
Yes, he averaged 95 yards a game in the playoffs.
And a 17 yards a pop there, too. So that's above his average
catch.
I don't think he ever had a 1,000-yard season for Baltimore, right? It was like after he left the Niners. Because like I remember I was like, oh, maybe Bolden's falling off, but didn't that playoff run. He was like, nah.
And he had a 1,000-yard season twice with the 49ers. And
which is crazy because he was old at that point, or considered old at that point.
Yeah, 33, 34 when he had those. Top 15 in receptions and top 15 in receiving yards. And I don't think people bring his name up like he's a top 15 receiver.
I'm assuming he's not in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, come on out.
No way. He was one that was forgotten very quickly after his time. Like, if you weren't watching it, he was quickly forgotten, and it's like, no, that dude was really good. Like, what he did.
He is one of only 14 players to have 1,000 or more receptions.
Yeah. How crucial. Because that was part of my list, is like, some of my players, it's how pivotal they were to this team's success. And I will say it again. If he's not there, Baltimore does not win, and Joe Flacco would not have looked that good. And Joe, he wouldn't have gotten that massive contract. Yeah.